Thank you, everyone, for joining. This is a first part of a two-part series on AI. This one is titled Start Using Artificial Intelligence to Help Your Business. We're very excited to welcome Mike Byrnes, owner of Byrnes Consulting, to join us today. Mike has been a great friend of FSI for decades, and he currently serves on our AI task force and has spoken for us many times. Beyond his work with FSI, Mike is a nationally recognized speaker and author, and he's been published over 500 times across our industry. I encourage you to explore his bio and resources at byrnesconsulting.com. I know that you'll find today's AI presentation very insightful and engaging. Mike will be answering any questions at the end of the presentation, so feel free to type your questions in using the Q&A feature. With that, please join me in welcoming Mike Byrnes. Go ahead, Mike.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I really appreciate it. Once again, Mike Byrnes, FSI has been great, so I'm excited to be here and talk to the members and everybody that's registered. We kind of came up with a plan of ramping up the content a little. So this is more the basic webinar. The next one will be a little bit more advanced. And if we continue to do them, it'll keep getting ramped up. But so how to start using AI to help your business. Wanted to dive in and tell you a little bit about who I am. I write all over the industry. I'm a consultant. Obviously, I own Byrnes Consulting. And then I'm speaking here on AI. What you need to know is that I am not a data scientist. I'm not that guy. I might be nerdy in other ways, but I don't have the pocket protector. I'm not that super brainiac guy on the back end of AI and how that works. That little image, the one thing that's probably more realistic about is representing my hair, but I am going to come at it more from a consultant, speaker, writer point of view on this presentation. Other thing to know too is I am not a compliance expert. For years of kind of bumped into compliance with advice and stuff, so I kind of know where things are shaped. So I'm not going to get into that. I'm not going to cover that in this webinar. If that's one of your concerns, it's a real good one. But ChatGPT, right when you create an account, when you log in with your email, whatever it might be, right in the beginning, right in front of you, it says, don't share sensitive information. I'll use that as a guide and make sure whatever advice I'm giving you, I'm not getting you in trouble, and make sure you're trying to utilize these tools in a huge way, but do it in the right way. Yes, thank you. I was asked to be on the FSI AI task force. It's wonderful. There's kind of three subsets to it. The last video meeting, I did a snapshot of this. I blurred it because I didn't ask for permission, but that's me and the upper left there with the smiling face. There's a lot of bright minds, and we have three subgroups. And there's a white paper coming out. This is a little bit of a teaser. I got permission to talk about this just a little bit. This white paper is coming out. The task force, the subgroup that I'm on, is a group that is talking about a decision framework. There's a risk with anything with AI. So what's the risk reward and how to make that decision? So that's really what our group tried to focus in on, how to make that decision. Then there's another group, like I said, I'm not the compliance expert. There's another group that's put together so much great information about what's being put out on regulations and legislation related to AI. One thing I'd be a little nervous about, like states going rogue and it gets really splintered. They're staying on top of that, and that'll be part of the white paper. And the last thing, again, I'm not the data scientist. There's a lot of guys that are way brighter than me on the task force. But that third component is how to share data in the right way. So look for that white paper, a little teaser. That's me at One Voice last year. Hopefully, I'll be back at One Voice again this year and can talk to you guys in person. I wanted to level set people. It's really funny as a speaker talking about AI. I, for the first time, said, "Hey, AI, create a webinar for me." And it went in this route, and I'm not going to go this route. It went with the whole history of AI, and that would have been a snoozer. I'm not going to do that. So I'm not a compliance person. I'm not a cybersecurity person. I'm not a data scientist, but I'm also not a historian, right? Like if you want to go read about this stuff, there's all kinds of books that have this information. But there was Andrei, a great Russian mathematician that came up with some way of factoring in what the next word would be. But know that you can go find that information, all kinds of books, all kinds of articles, and even Wikipedia or something can give you some good background on how it all happened. What I do want to let you know is that there's a huge huge tidal wave of change coming. This image shows a little ripple. I'm a big believer that AI is going to revolutionize all kinds of things, and it's really going to permeate all over the world, and it's going to really get into most technologies. It's going to impact them in a big way. Thank you for being on an AI webinar. Like, you're doing your part. You're learning about this so that you can hopefully, ride the wave, be ahead of the wave, and as opposed to getting crushed by it. I don't want to get into too much AI jargon. I think our task force has a list of like 100 terminologies, and I can't even remember them all. There's a lot of different crazy things that are out there, and some are very, very scientific. So I'm not going to go that way there, but I want to understand where we might go. We are now in this stage where AI tools are going to be created. And the next stage that I believe that we'll go to is you're going to have more of an AI teammate in this book called The Age of Invisible Machines. And the author talked about an intelligent digital worker. And the first one was pretty primitive. If you think about it, this AI was given a whole bunch of information and could format it, be a little bit of analysis, but nothing too complicated. Then the next level up was some knowledge was gathered. So when the author gave this example of the computer could then recognize that it was birthday. And so as you get more advanced, you're now becoming at the knowledge stage as more of a basic digital worker, and then it gets more advanced and intelligent, and then wisdom kicks in. So with sticking with that birthday analysis, the computer would say, hey, I realize it's your birthday. I know you can have a really good time tonight. I would love to schedule a dinner for you. I can invite all your friends. I can let you know what the RSVPs are. I can even postpone your meetings in case you're going to want to stay out late tomorrow. So I can let all those people know and reschedule. You're now starting to see what you would think of a digital worker as kind of like this like AI agent, like this one task thing. It's going to advance, and it's going to be encompassing all those other types of AI agents. Again, I'll probably talk about it, trying not to use a lot of terms, but AI agent is something that would just take over a task or maybe a part of a person's job. I put those in here to just kind of level set the phases of where we might go and how you want to start to figure out where this is going to lead you, because it's going to happen at a faster pace than I think that most people are even aware of. I don't think they have a clue. I want to show you some facts about AI too that will hopefully level set everybody and keep everybody on the same page. When ChatGPT came out, it was pretty amazing. In November 2022, had 1 million weekly users in 5 days. Incredible, right? People jumped on it. They saw that there was a value. They wanted to test it. But that was 1 million people, probably some brainiac type of people, computer nerds. I don't know, however you want to describe them. I hope I'm not insulting you if you were one of the original people. But there were some people that jumped on it right away and took advantage of it. Where are we today? So we went from 1 million. And if you look in May, we had 369 million monthly users. And I just updated this with the August statistics. And now we have 812 million weekly users. Pretty phenomenal. The other thing that is of interest is that you're starting to see at some point this year that the hockey stick is starting, right? Like, you're going to see just a complete flow of people that have maybe not been there or will start to use it even more. That explains why ChatGPT has over 5 billion visits per month now. I wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive. I just threw it on this page. I was just curious how people are getting to ChatGPT. And there's all kinds of source information in different flows, but I just was curious with the desktop versus phone. And you're seeing about 3/4, a little bit more than 3/4 of people are using the desktop still. And that helps me figure out how they're using it. And we'll talk about specifics of how they're using it in a second. Another thing that will be interesting to see is how much AI is pushed out on people too, right? If you kind of consider the technology that you have right now, is it old, is it new? If you are buying new equipment, let's say it's a laptop or a phone, Deloitte has made a prediction. It's interesting to see how this will play out, but they predicted this in their Deloitte's Global's 2025 predictions report. And they really believe that generative AI would be, those local capacities would be on your phones. So they said with what's going to be shipped, 30% of new phones would have that capability. And with laptops, 50%. How AI is going to be part of how people operate. They kind of don't even get a choice, right? I guess they could choose to not buy this new technology. It's going to be more of something that they're used to day in and day out. The other reason I'm seeing that there's an uptick, or the other reason I can understand it, is that AI has traditionally hallucinated, right? If you went to Chat GPT and asked it something before, you might get some really random answer. And that's just because think about it as a mathematical formula, and it's trying to assess what the right answer would be. And sometimes it just misses the mark. Wow, like look at this trend line. In a very short period of time, AI is getting way better and eliminating hallucinations. Like the rates are way down. The best hallucination, the best hallucination rates, say that fast 5 times. The best ones are below 1%. And that's pretty amazing to me. If you're curious about the top one, Google Gemini was number one. There was a couple other ones that were under 1%. Pretty amazing to me. We've come a really, really long way in a short period of time. The other thing about the popularity of how this is exploding is, wow, look at the US statistics for website visits, and ChatGPT is broken into the top 10. There are some really big websites, really well-known ones that it's skipped, where you think, wow, US is really important. And I do want to point out something, because I'll go back to it in a minute. Google has over 20 times the visits that ChatGPT does. And they wanted to kind of keep that competitive advantage. And that's why you see AI overviews right in your face when you do a search. Now, Google owns YouTube, so they're kind of dominant in traffic in the US. Look at Facebook and Instagram. If you looked at the world statistics, ChatGPT is now number 5. We talked about it had 1 million users, monthly users. Now it's just exploding, right? So you're seeing how popular and how much this is ramping up. So you don't have to believe a consultant speaker blowing a lot of hot air. If you're curious about what percentage the US is, it's about 17% of that traffic is from the US. Very interesting for me to see is who's using it. When I first talked on social media, I believe it was like the first consultant out. I was doing speaking engagements and writing about social media. I saw something that was interesting, a very similar trend, that the young people use social media before the older people. Traditionally, always like older people kind of taught younger people, and all this knowledge was passed down. But with social media, for the first time, it was flipped on its head. The younger people were teaching the older people something of value. Wow. So look at who's using ChatGPT and other forms of AI, right? It's definitely skewed to be younger. You're seeing upwards of 45% of these people are younger. I have 2 teenagers. I would love to see the statistics 0 to 17 and say, what type of interaction are they having? I know teachers are scaring them to death. They're going to get, in trouble for plagiarizing or stealing content or whatever it might be. But I don't know if our education system is really preparing people for this huge change that AI is going to bring. Know that if you're older and you're kind of slow to getting there, thank you for being on the webinar. But 2, that should be changed. Another one that's really interesting is that 2/3 of the users are male. I tried to make sense of this. I didn't have time to go into it too deep, but maybe us guys are more nerdy. Maybe we're like more scientific, like sci-fi movies more. I don't know what it is. Maybe women are a little bit more risk averse. They're slower to get there, but that wasn't true with something like Pinterest, right? So I don't think that disproportionate number will last forever. But right now, it's an eye opener to me that it's way more male dominated, and I think that should change for a lot of reasons. I get asked all the time, which AI tool should I use, chatbot, whatever you want to call it. And so I just put in here what people are using. You see that there's some big players when it comes to market share. By far, number 1 is ChatGPT, right? I'm not saying you have to go with the most popular one, but over time, resources usually go to the leader. So it might be making an easy decision. I recommend using them all. Give the same prompt or request to these and see how they perform. And then you can kind of make your own decision, see which one you prefer. In doing this presentation, I will tell you that Gemini did way better with creating pictures than the rest. And I was frustrated with the other ones more. I can tell you now I'll be skewed a little bit more for creating graphics with one, where text or outlines or brainstorming might be better with another. It's up to you to kind of figure out what that might be. Based on that kind of information of looking at how are people using these things, I wanted to know the difference between desktop and mobile. So not a big surprise, ChatGPT is so dominant, it's at the top of the list. Copilot kind of working with ChatGPT up there. Canva, to me, years ago was a tool that you could use if you're going to create a social media post. Hey, you could go get a picture that would go with the text. And there was kind of this marketing tool that could do graphic design. And then the other one that's really interesting is Grammarly. I write a lot in the industry. One really well-known publisher got rid of their editor and they just used Grammarly. That was an eye-opener for me back when I first learned that. Grammarly could be a really great tool. Voice mod, I don't have a lot of familiarity with that, but people are changing their voice. Maybe that kind of the younger people kind of playing around and creating some fun things. I need to do a deeper dive on that one. From a mobile standpoint, again, not a big surprise. ChatGPT and Gemini right there, and obviously Copilot too. Octane is a marketing firm, so that was interesting. It was there, and Canva is again on the list. I get asked a lot, like, how do you use AI? Before I give you the answers of business reasons to do it, here's how people are using it. If you look at that general research category, I think they're using it a lot as a search engine. Email composition, can't wait to talk about that one when we get to the marketing section. Other is just a huge category of like 20 different things that go into there. And then you got commercial research. Commercial research to me is more like corporations doing kind of the research as opposed to kind of that academic side. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But the bigger surprise one that was kind of so low was marketing copywriting. Marketing copywriting is something that I think should be really utilized. And I'll give you some best case examples of how to do that and talk you through the kind of the process. But that was really interesting for me to kind of see how ChatGPT is being used beyond what I just guessed what it was being used for. If you follow Sam Altman, I think you should, CEO of OpenAI, he is kind of forecasting the next version of GPT-6. People want this tool understand who they are. And guess what? To do that, they're going to have to remember more, and then they can have more personalization. To me, that is pretty cool, but it's also a little scary. So we'll see where that goes. But I think that it's going to be more of that personal assistant, like that AI is going to be there for you, and it's going to know who you are, maybe better than some of your friends would know you, at least some of the acquaintances. That's kind of the future where that plays out. Interesting information is that AI is helping making a trusted purchase decision. Number one's an obvious one, like a physical store, trusted number one. If you're going to buy a product, you go to the store, you get to see it, you get to talk to the person, you're there in person. But number two, I couldn't believe it, that generative AI is actually number two. It's a close number two, like 1% off to the physical store. Websites was like way down the list. The corporate website that's pushing the product was like number 5. We've now flipped where we're counting on Gen AI to make a decision on how we purchase things. I was curious. I wanted to see if this was true from a financial services standpoint. And I did see that using ChatGPT to make purchases was not really that significant yet in financial services and education. Education was just a notch below, but they both were at 5%. So you're starting to see that AI is influencing what we do, what we buy from products and services. It makes sense that products would be first, right? If you look at the number one categories, travel and hospitality is number one, and a very close second is consumer packaging goods, kind of that retail part of it. But I wouldn't be surprised that financial services, maybe it's always going to lag, but it should start to increase as the stuff becomes more and more of the daily routine of how people think and how they work. This one was an eye-opener for me, and I'll get to some advice in a bit, but I wanted to kind of get the concept of how AI is going to influence everybody. I think earnings is going to just push people with capitalism. CEOs and executives are going to be pushed to want to push earnings. That's what they're striving for. 47% said they're comfortable having agentic AI make these decisions or complete these tasks directly impacting the customer or the client. 40%, I would be in the category of depends. But 87% were open to this, and 11% no, 2 not sure. We'll just put them in the no category. Look at this. Like, so if these people are starting to use AI to start to talk with customers and clients, are these other ones going to lag and stay behind? The ones in blue, this 87%, are going to see big improvements in earnings. I really think that they'll be more profitable. I don't think that that 13% is going to last that much longer. I think it's going to continue to shrink and shrink and shrink. And AI in the very near future will be incorporated to do more things. One of the first slides I had was that kind of that robot in the office, and I thought you're going to have that AI teammate. The next future wave that you're going to want to look at is how is all this stuff orchestrated? An AI pilot, again, it's maybe a task or even a person's job. And it's responsible for doing that. There's going to be 100,000 companies that pop up overnight. Trying to keep up with them has been really hard. I have a huge long list, and I'm still continuing to work on that. AI is going to be in everything, but at some point I'm going to lose track. But right now, these people that label themselves AI companies, they're basically a pilot. And so you have this army of people. The next phase will be like, how do you orchestrate all this? How do you pull them all together? How do you get them all in sync and heading all in the same direction? And that will be the next challenge. Jobs, I get asked about that a lot. So before I get to the advice, I think you need to know that jobs are going to be lost by 2030. An estimated 92 million jobs will be displaced by AI. And that source is the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs Report 2025. In that report, a more positive part of it is they actually said more jobs will be created than lost. I'm not quite sure that's true, but with every kind of advancement, new jobs are created. Would you believe that 99% of jobs could be replaced? Gartner put out some information that said you have 33% of enterprise software applications will include agentic AI. And then if you start to look at those agents that we were talking about, over 15% of the day-to-day work decisions we made autonomously through AI agents. What that means is like they're doing it on their own. They don't have a human necessarily. Maybe there's some human level of overlay, but these agents are making decisions and computing things and doing the tasks on their own where humans are not involved. Get a little scary before I kind of get into the advice part. If you look at super intelligent, you're starting to look at that maybe they're smarter than all humans combined. And so this quote from Dr. Roman Yaplowski, I don't know if I butchered his name, I'm sorry, but he said, first, anything with a computer can be automated. So those jobs can be lost. Next, humanoid robots are made 5 years behind. So, basically those jobs will be eliminated. He said even plumbers will lose their jobs. So robots will be able to do things that humans could do. And they'll be connected with AI, so they'll be able to do it even better and faster, not have to sleep at night, that type of stuff. So you're looking at a world that unemployment is just going to be shocking. He had said that 10% unemployment rate would be huge. Well, how scary would 99% be? If all these people are losing their traditional job that they had and things are morphing, where are they going to go? What's going to happen? He said, all you have left are jobs for whatever reason, is that you prefer to have a human do it instead of a machine. I gave blood this morning for the American Red Cross. That's probably a job that there was 5 people in the office, at least one person that puts the needle in you. You probably want a human there for that, right? A consultant like me, I might be replaced by AI. So I'm going to have to morph and change. That's the scary page. So I don't know if you want to believe that or not, but know that there are AI experts out there talking about that as a real possibility. When I put this page in there, I didn't think about that today's September 11th. So just kind of weird to do on a webinar, but a very quick moment of silence. Sorry to all those who lost. We'll never forget them. So I didn't want to be inappropriate and have a picture of New York in there. And especially you can see where the tower stood in the way back there. But I haven't really talked about Facebook much and Meta. And it is important to know that there's some big things happening in our world. So pay attention to the news. Meta is putting in so much money, approximately up to $72 billion to make capital expenditures. Rumor has it, they'll spend hundreds of billions to be a leader in AI. I've even heard that they're hiring AI experts. One person got offered over $1 billion. I didn't believe that was true, but I guess it is. You think about it, if that one person can make so many advancements, making $1 billion is easy after you hire that person. There's an arms race going on with these AI companies. The reason the picture of New York is in here is that they're going to create these Titan clusters, basically like these mega sites. And one of them, Zuckerberg has said, would be the size of Manhattan, gigantic. Basically needs so much electricity to run AI at such a high level that it's going to be a huge issue. So that infrastructure is going to have to be built. Why is Zuckerberg doing this? He basically said that they're chasing after this personal superintelligence, and he wants to put the power of AI directly in the individual's hands. Hope that's the case, but we'll see where that goes. Is this scary? I will tell you yes and no. In the very short term, it's a great opportunity. A lot of cool things going to happen, but there will be change that comes out of this. I always think of that scene in The Matrix, Morpheus. I think he gives the chance. He's like, hey, take the blue pill and you can wake up in your bed tomorrow and think whatever you think, or you can take the red pill and he'll take you down the rabbit hole, right? So you are on this AI webinar. I'm assuming you're taking the red pill. We're going to move on. So you kind of got a little bit of a scary thing, but you got the lay of the land about AI. Simple ways to improve your business. Honestly, there are hundreds, probably hundreds of thousands of things that you can do. I just want to pull out some. This page is really from just a generic consulting presentation that I used to have. The reason I have it in here is because every executive, owner, even financial advisor that I work with, they get spread in too many directions, right? And I think you have to be aware of that and say, hey, there's not enough time in the day. If you've ever said that, that's the case. So right there in being self-aware, that you have a really cool opportunity to use AI and to advance. Everyone kind of has this cool idea. I'm not saying you need to leave the company that you're at, but everyone has this cool idea. At some point, they've had an idea. Well, now that solo entrepreneur or solopreneur, that's a reality. People are so scared to take their idea because they don't want to be business owners. But the reality is a person can easily have $1 million business and not have any other employees. AI is going to really make that an opportunity. Use this, learn how to leverage it in so many different ways. When you're getting started, you got to learn how to prompt. Don't read all this text, but this is a real simple example of how to prompt. What that means is you just kind of putting in something to get something back. So I did a prompt on how to get prompts. So hope you enjoy that little fun kind of. This is what came out. Had a few different versions. I kind of had a competition with the different AI tools out there. Basically, you're putting in something. I came up with these 4 categories. It's got to be specific and clear. The more clear you are, the better. You put garbage in, you get garbage out. You probably heard that before. It's very true with prompting. When I spoke at One Voice in Dallas at the last conference, I said that the number one job Forbes was saying right out of college was a prompt engineer, something that never existed before. Right? How do you figure out how to use AI? How do you get the most out of it? The next is like context and constraints. Early on, I don't want to use AI as a writer because I want ideas to be my own. But I did come up to the realization that I created the article already, and it's published on a publisher's website. To get the blog post, I would summarize it. Let me try to see if AI could do that. And so I put the text in and said, please summarize this. The constraint was 200 words. I want it to be bulleted. That's kind of the desired format. This is where the hallucination issue was, and it turned me off about AI, is that it did a great write-up, but it took things from all over the world that had nothing to do with my article, even though I had put that constraint in there. Even with something like this graphic, you're going to need that category with revisions and refinement. I'll tell you the pros and cons. When I created this, Gemini, I think did this one. It was the best one. It had something goofy on the human image. I try to do refinements one line at a time. And so I said, can you take that off? And it made the change, no problem. But then the second one was like, why is the first category not in a box like the other 3? So I tried to get that to happen. And after 3 tries, I still couldn't get it to happen. So it's not exactly where you need to be. I know there's tools like Midjourney and such that are more advanced, but wow, to create that could have been an hour or 2 of work. So it really helped from an efficiency standpoint. So learn how to be a better prompter. I mean, there's whole classes on how to use prompting and whole careers right now. So it's something that you need to figure out. Another book of interest, Sandy Carter wrote this book, AI First, Humans Always. And I just kind of asked, again, AI to create a little simple graphic about how you can have AI incorporated in everything. What is that list of things that you need to do? how can AI have input? And then do you see better results because of it? Are you saving money? Are you making more money? Is profitability increasing? And AI should kind of always be in the loop. Most people aren't there yet. AI first is something that they'll get to, but the faster, the better you'll be. One thing that I would advise you to do is just figure out, where do you need help? What are those things that you need help with? If you could create that list, if it's just you're that solo entrepreneur, or if you have a team of people, I really encourage you to have an offsite meeting. Bring in a consultant like me if you need to, but have that meeting and come up with this whole list of things and say, hey, what could AI tackle? Where do you think we would have the most success? That will be pretty cool to see how you can generate a list to start to think like you're an AI first company. Even as an individual, how do you need help? And then how could AI solve those problems? One thing that I know that most people in this industry need help with is education. We always got to be on top of our game and be better at what we do. I see these brilliant CEOs always talking about like how many books they read and how they influence their career and all that. And I'm jealous because I'll open a book and I get through the first chapter and I put it down, and then I get another book and another book, and all of a sudden I have like this junkyard of books that I've never got through. So use AI to summarize things, but actually prompt it to teach you to summarize it in a certain way. Heart in this image could be like, hey, I want to know what the human capital pathetic types of things were covered in this book. And it'll actually take that out, right? It'll summarize what you want and make that summary not just a generic summary of a book, but actually specific to you. And maybe it's that author did whole biography. What is the career advice that would help me? And as AI knows who I am, would help me take my next step. So you can start to summarize books, a real easy thing to do. The next thing I talked about back when we did the little pie chart, we talked about how there was educational information, and then there was corporate information where they're doing the deep dive and doing the deep research beyond just kind of a generic what you would do for a Google search kind of thing, but something more deep dives. What that would mean would be like, hey, I got these 5 research papers that are all basically helping me do my job better. I don't have time to read them all. So AI, summarize all 5 of these. And then the next thing would be synthesize. So like AI, compare all 5. What are the 5 things that they agree on? What are the 5 things they disagree on? What are the gaps that aren't covered? And oh, by the way, AI, what's your recommendation? What's your analysis on synthesizing? It might not be spot on all the time, but I think you'll be really surprised. Imagine like a high school senior or someone in college that has to do a big paper. That's basically what that is. And they could do it in minutes. It might take a couple prompts and a couple different submissions, but you're going to get something that can be so impactful and head you in the right direction to make you more successful at what you do. Be self-aware, looking at your timing of your day. Are you dedicating at least half an hour a week to learn about AI? If you are in my camp and you realize how revolutionary this can be, you need to dedicate time to stay on top of it, right? And you got to figure out who to follow, all that. Being self-aware is important. The other reason you kind of have the notepad there, a little archaic in today's digital world, is just it's easy just to write down while you're going through your day, like where AI could impact you in a positive way. Because we get so busy, we get pulled in so many different directions. We might have the idea in our head, but if it doesn't get on paper or type it in, it might not ever go anywhere. That's basic consulting 101, just a basic tool to think about how to advance. The generative AI is really about producing things, like generating things. How could you advance? And that's something that it's really good at, even though the hallucinations are still there a little bit. It's unbelievable. So I showed you an example. It saved me hours of work on some of the graphic images and actually helped me with some of the research and actually made it a little bit easier to come up with hopefully a good presentation. Whatever you're doing, I don't know if you're a software coder, but what are all those different forms of information that you could generate? Think about that. What's holding you back? Be aware of this too. When I ask people what's going on, and this is backed up by other facts of what's holding people back with using AI, privacy and security regulations, those usually at the top. The next one, the in-house expertise. I hear this all the time. I don't know where to start. I created an article, and I've done some more advanced ones, but this was just a basic one. I did it for Think Advisor. You can go read it. But it was 3 high impact ways that advisors can use AI. What I would encourage you to do, because I know we're going to be running out of time soon, is go read this article. One of the easiest ones to do was to use a note taker. How do you figure out how you can incorporate that? I would give you the example of, if you have 20 meetings, your firm has 20 meetings, and you actually can cut that down to make that more efficient so you don't have to take the notes after. So let's say it's like an hour of follow-up that you have to do times 20 meetings times 50 weeks. You just saved 1,000 hours, right? Next one, email was in that pie chart. How can you use email? I think we all want to have our own personal touch on emails. So draft something really rough and throw it into AI and let it bang out something better. The next one in the article was creating marketing campaigns. I could do a whole hour presentation on that one. I know we're running out of time. We got to get to the Q&A, but that's something that I would really incorporate. How do you figure out the target market? How do you dive down into those segments? How do you then come up with content that would resonate? How do you get a PR strategy? How do you have email campaigns that would work? Segmenting is going to be gigantic. One thing from a marketing standpoint, I got fooled by this. I don't know if you guys did too. I was like, oh, cute. Bunny's video. I don't know if you saw this, but Bunny's jumping on a trampoline. It went totally viral. And I skimmed by it. I didn't put a lot of thought into it. But if you look at part of this video, there's ears on the butt of one of the bunnies. Like it's definitely a total AI fake. But it's so cute. Where I'm going with this is it's almost to the stage where we can't tell the difference between an AI video and a real video, and it will get there. If I do a show of hands, and I've done this for years, like, do you have a YouTube channel? I'll maybe get a couple hands that go up, and they don't go up very high because they're not really proud of them. Create video content. If you remember when we looked at the website traffic, YouTube was at the top, right under Google. Huge, huge opportunity that advisors miss all the time. So start to figure out how AI can help with that. And maybe in the second webinar, I'll put in some tools there. I know we have to be sensitive to time, so I'm going to kind of get to the final thoughts, but I would ask you to think about what are those kind of biggest challenges that you have. Honestly, efficiency, human capital, and growth are ones that I see in the consulting side all the time. Efficiency is one that's really easy for AI to come in and make some advancements. Human capital, it's usually the biggest expense. So now if you can make employees a little bit more effective, you just saved 1,000 hours in that example of using a note taker. What could they be doing? Do you maybe cut staff? I hate to suggest that, but that's the reality with AI, that's going to probably happen. But you can use them in a better way to be more effective. And then growth, there's all kinds of things that we could talk about, and I'll hopefully dive into in the next presentation. I'll talk about this more in the next presentation. As AI and advisor profitability, there's all these categories of how you can be more successful, from investment management to hyper personalized financial planning, whatever it might be, prospecting, getting referrals, compliance even. So whatever it might be, realize how AI can be effective, and then actually look for those AI agents, like companies that are going to pop up to help with those little tasks that you want to help your business be more successful. Running out of time. Growing in the AI era is the next topic, and that's on October 2nd. I hope you can sign up for that. Gartner came up with this quote. It's on their website. AI innovations will rewrite industry rules, render core offerings obsolete, creating entirely new business ecosystems. And I wonder, like, how many iterations did AI take to write that? But it's wonderful. I mean, what I would say is just the world's going to be turned upside down. There's going to be so much opportunity, but there's going to be so much disruption. I would just ask that you start to think about how you can benefit from this, and again, ride the wave as opposed to getting crushed by it. Try to be smarter with AI. I know there are scientists that want to have chip in your brain or somehow connected with the computer so that AI can help our brains actually be smarter, or they actually even heard of another version where they create a second brain for you and they interact. And that scares me, because you're not the same person anymore. AI is going to take over your brain. But the reality is, there are ways up to that kind of superhuman intelligence. Like, there's some way that you can use AI that's safe to make you better, and take those baby steps to get there. Number two would be, how can you use AI to 10x what you do? Like, how can you be more successful? It's unbelievable the potential that this has. Think about that list and start to plug away. The first ones to do this kind of stuff will flourish and be the most successful. Lastly, not to make it like a morbid thing, like this is Skynet and we're in the Terminator, but there's an explosion of change. Be on top of this. know what's going to happen. When I said get that notepad out and dedicate some time to AI each week, we're going to see advancements come at us like we've never seen. The human race has never seen advancements come so fast. So please, please, please stay on top of this. And hopefully you'll tune into that second webinar because they'll be even more advanced than this one.
We do have one question. How can we use AI alongside a financial planning tool like eMoney?
First of all, kind of a whole process. Think of a governance committee within your organization. Don't go do something rogue and get in trouble with compliance. Like, don't upload a client's data into something that's open and hackers could get to it, or it could be misused. Figure out what the governance body is within your organization, and that should kind of have representation from everybody. It's a smaller firm, you might have to outsource it, and then create the policy of what you're trying to do, and then take baby steps of how to incorporate these things. There'll be all kinds of tools, and maybe I'll put some in the next one. I don't want to do it on this webinar, but things that will layer into knowing your client better than you already know them. Once you get that information, it will then give you a better understanding of their life expectancy, of their habits, of their behaviors, of which then the financial plan will be that much better. AI eventually will start to incorporate all kinds of information that you're not gathering. It'll have the complete picture of what they're doing, what their behavior is, where they're spending their money, what their interests are, what their hopes are, all this stuff. And it will know your client better than you know your client yourself. How that gets incorporated will be the next few years. AI pilots that are going to come around. I would also look for any vendor that you're using right now to say, how are they going to incorporate AI to be more successful? If you go to the industry conferences, some of them are on panels and they're kind of faking it. They haven't figured it out yet. And then other ones you can see are super, super advanced. I'm not saying that the particular one that was brought up is faking it in any way. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying know what technologies exist and pay attention to all those AI agents types of businesses that are going to populate. They might replace the vendor that you use, or they might actually have to be orchestrated, like I said, and incorporated. I hope that was kind of a little bit of a generic answer, but hopefully it answered the question.
We do have one more question, Mike.
Okay.
Can you really get the productivity and efficiency you're talking about through free versions of these products, or do you need to invest in the version that costs money?
My advice for you, whatever it is you're doing, is go use the free version first, as long as it's compliance approved with privacy and all that. See what you can do. A simple example of an email where it might have taken you 20 minutes to craft something, you can do it in 5 now. That's a really simple example. Email is the main way that we communicate. And that pie chart, that was really simple, most used. And so now you save 15 minutes. Let's just say you send 1 email a day, which is not true. You send more, but 15 minutes times 300 days you work, man, you've just had some incredible efficiencies, right? At some point, all our information will be uploaded into AI, right? Like, so every email will get in there, and that will be more the ones that you pay for, and it'll be more private and more protected. It'll actually say, hey, this is how I can answer all these emails that came through. Here's all the to-dos you got to do. And it'll be crazy about how operational efficiency. For right now, I hope that like simple example of how to write an email would help. Even digesting emails that come in, you get something long-winded, AI can help you review things, I guess, do that in a compliant-friendly manner. I'm trying to give you, because I know we're out of time, really, really simple versions of how the free version can help. I'll just pick a random thing. Let's say you don't get PR, but you want to increase your ability to get more exposure. When you do that, you need to know where your target market's digesting. What are they reading? What are they listening to? What are they watching? You can put as much information as you can into your target market and then say, hey, here's the target market. What do they digest from a media standpoint? And they can create a list of all the different publications, news outlets, whatever it might be. Then you can take that information and say, hey, by the way, can you create a list of the people that are writing on XYZ topic? So now, for free, you've, in maybe a half an hour, basically eliminated the need for a PR agency. So if you are already in PR, what are you spending? $5,000 a month, or at least $1,000 a month. And if you're not getting PR and you're not paying anything, you now just got all these services for free. It's amazing. I could give you thousands of examples like that. I hope those are 2 that would sink in and make sense. I will answer any questions you have if I can answer them, or I'll try to find you the resource of the person that can if I can't answer it. So don't be afraid to shoot me an email. I always say, like, as a friend of FSI's, I'll be glad to give you a free consultation on any of the stuff if I can. But I love that you guys paid attention and hopefully stayed on for the whole webinar. The next one will be more advanced. So hopefully we'll see you in October.
All right. Thank you very much, Mike. And thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye.